Hello students, welcome back to your economics class. This chapter is included in your PA2 examinations and so we have to complete it. So today we did two activities last class. You wrote a check, you have made the coins. So now we really need to start getting into the chapter and learning the other aspects of money and credit. So moving on, what we did last time, okay, you all know now what is a bank. Okay, you all know you use checks in the banks will deposit your money, it keeps your money, etc. So what do the banks do with the deposits which they are accepting from the public? Okay, so there is an entire mechanism that works here. And what is that mechanism? You all must have heard the word loan. Loan is lending money from one individual or an organization or an entity to another individual, organization, or entity. So basically, a loan is a debt provided by an entity to another entity at an interest rate and evidenced by a promissory note, which specifies the principal amount of the money borrowed, the interest rate the lender is charging, and the date of repayment. So a loan entails the reallocation of the subject for a period of time between the lender and a borrower. You can say it's an arrangement or it's a contract between a lender and a borrower for a particular period of time. Okay, so these banks that we give the money to, what do? Is they have this mechanism of loans. So what happens is these banks, they keep a small portion, a small amount of the deposit that we give as cash with themselves. Okay, so let's say in India, nowadays the banks are holding around 15% of the deposit that we give them. Okay, this is kept as provision to pay the depositors who might come to withdraw money from the bank on any given day. So everyone's deposits together, 15% of that amount is kept with the bank and the rest is not kept with the bank. This 15% is kept so that any depositor comes to withdraw money, so they have it. Since on any particular day, only some of its depositors will come and withdraw the cash, the bank is able to manage their cash management with the 15% amount. So what do you think the banks does with the rest of the amount? With the 75%, sorry, 85%, what does it do? So the banks uses the major portion of the deposits to give loans, to extend loans. And there is a huge amount of loans, there is a high market of loans in the market. There are lots of people who want loans for many economic activities for various reasons. Okay, we will read about these loans more in the later part of the chapter. Basically, bank use the deposits that we give them to meet their own loan requirements of the people. So they give loans to others. So they are like those landlords, so they keep the money that we give them, they keep 15% and 85% they give further to someone else. In this way, the banks mediate between those who have surplus funds, that is us, people like us who have lots of funds, and those who are in needs of funds. So sometimes we may also become the borrower. Although we have deposited money in the bank, sometimes we may also become the borrower. So if I want to buy a car tomorrow, and let's say my amount in the bank is 5 lakh rupees, but my car is 10 lakh rupees. So now I'm going to become a borrower. I will borrow money from the bank and I will repay to the bank in some amount of time, in some installments with some interest amount. So banks, they charge a higher interest rate on loans than what they offer on deposits. So if I have deposited 5 lakh rupees with the bank, they are probably giving me 5% or probably 3 to 4%. But when I go to borrow money, so if I want to borrow money for my car from the bank, then the bank is going to charge me 7% to 10%. Okay, so the banks will charge a higher rate on the loans that they offer than the interest rate that they are offering on the deposits. The difference between what is charged from the borrower and what is paid to the depositor is their main source of income. So this is where the bank will earn. So for example, I have given 5 lakh rupees to bank to keep safely, and it is paying me 3% on that 5 lakh rupees a month. And let's say you have come to the bank to borrow money and they gave you my 5 lakh rupees, and in return they're going to take 7% from you. So if you think out of that 5 lakh rupees, they are earning 7%, and out of the 7% they are going to give 3% to me. So they are going to keep 4%. This is their main source of income. What do you think will happen if all depositors went to ask for their money at the same time and on the same day? Can you imagine? They will run out of stock. They only have 15% of the cash deposits with them. So what do you think happened during demonetization? Now everybody wanted to withdraw. Or when you hear that a bank is closing, or some news has come about a bank and everyone runs to the bank goes through a crisis that time. So this was all about loans. People take loans for various reasons. Now, a large number of transactions happen in our day-to-day lives. Okay, and they involve credit in some or the other form. Credit refers to an agreement in which the lender supplies the borrower with money, goods or services in return for the promise of future payment. Credit is udhar, you can say. Okay, so now let's see how credit works through two examples. We are going to see two examples. The first one is the festive season. There's a festive season of 2 months. It is a festive season 2 months from now, and the shoe manufacturer, that is Salim, he has received an order from a large trader in town for 3,000 pairs of shoes to be delivered in 1 month's time. Now, to complete this order, to complete this production, Salim had to hire few more workers for stitching and pasting work. He also had to purchase more raw material, and to meet all these expenses of hiring more people and taking more raw material, Salim had to take loans from two sources. First, he asks the leather supplier to supply leather now, and he promises to pay him later. And secondly, he obtains loan in cash from a large trader as advance payment for 1,000 pairs of shoes, with a promise to deliver the whole order by the end of the month. So what does he do? He does two things. Number one, he goes to the leather supplier, takes his raw material and promises him that I will pay you later on. And secondly, he goes to the large trader who gave him the order of 3,000 pairs of shoes. He went to that large trader and said, you give me advance payment for 1,000 shoes and I will send you all the 3,000 shoes by the end of the month. So at the end of the month, Salim is able to deliver the order and also make a good profit and also repay all the money that he has borrowed. He gives the order to the trader, so the trader will pay him the rest of the amount, and he was also able to pay the leather supplier. So in this case, Salim has obtained credit to meet the working capital needs of production. And this credit has helped him to meet the ongoing expenses of the production and also complete the order on time, and so his earnings has increased. So credit plays a very vital and a very positive role in this situation. Now we look at another situation, that is Swapna. Now Swapna is a small farmer and she grows groundnut, that is sing, on her 3 acres of land. She takes loan from the money lender to meet the expenses of cultivation, hoping that her harvest would help repay the loan. Midway, somewhere in the middle, the season of crop is hit by pests and the crops fail. Now, although Swapna is spraying pesticides and all on her crops, it made very little difference, and her crops have failed, and she is unable to pay the money lender, and the debt keeps growing. Okay, so the debt grows over the year into a large amount. So let's say this happened like probably 2 3 consecutive years, and the debt has now become very large. So next year, Sapna now takes a new loan for cultivation. Okay, and the crop this year is very normal, but her earnings are not enough to repay the old loan and the new loan, and so she's caught in a debt, and she has to sell a part of her land just to pay off the debt. So these are two credit situations that we have learned about. Okay, so we learned what is credit. It is an agreement between the lender and the supplier, and in some situations like the ones we saw, credit plays an important and a vital role, but in certain situations it even makes the borrower worse than before and puts them in a debt trap. Debt trap is when at time of the repayment of loan, it becomes so difficult because of the interest rates and the credit. So instead of improving the earnings of the person, it pushes the borrower into a situation for which to recover is very, very difficult and painful. And this kind of a situation is called a debt trap. Okay. Now, in rural areas, the main demand for credit is only for crop production, because you all know agriculture is their primary activity. So crop production involves considerable cost on seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, water, electricity, etc., etc. So there is a very minimum stretch of 3 to 4 months, uh, and between this time the farmers have to buy these inputs, and when they sell their crops, farmers usually take crop loans at the beginning of the season and they repay the loans after the harvest. So this stretch is very short, it is only 3 to 4 months time. So repayment of the loan is crucially dependent on the income the farmer gets from the crop that season. Now, in Swapna's case that we just studied, we just saw her case, the failure of crop made loan payment impossible, and then she had to sell a part of her land to repay the loan. So she was in a worse situation than she is now in a worse situation than she was at when she borrowed. So credit, instead of helping Swapna improve the earnings, has left her worse off. Now she had to sell a part of her land also. So this is an example of what is called a debt trap. Credit in this case pushes the borrower into a situation from which recovery is very, very painful. So in one situation we saw that the credit has helped in increasing the earnings and making the person better off. In another situation you saw that it pushed the person into a debt trap. Now, to repay her loan, she has to sell a portion of her land, and she is clearly much worse off than before. Now, whether credit would be useful or not depends on the risk. So, you cannot, so if a question asks, do you think credit is useful? The answer would be, it depends from situation to situation. It's a very relative term. So, whether the credit would be useful or not depends on the risk in the situation and whether there is some support in case of loss. Now, in your textbooks, on page number, which page is this? 1 minute. 44. In your textbooks, in page number 44, we have with us one. There is one table given to y'all that I want y'all to do. I can't show you all the table. Why? Give me a minute. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, here. On page number 44, you have this table, and I want you all to fill this table out. You have to fill the table and you have to see that, you know, why did Salim need credit? What was his risk? What was the outcome? Why did Swapna need credit? What was her risk? What was her outcome? Suppose Salim continues to get orders from traders, what would be his position after 6 years? And what are the reasons that make Swapna's situation so risky? Discuss factors like pesticides, role of money lenders, and climate. You'll do all this in the textbook itself, mark and write whatever is required. I'm trying to find your work. I'm not able to. Okay. All right. So we saw credit, you saw the debt trap, and you know now we are going to learn about collateral. Now, every loan agreement will specify an interest rate which the borrower must pay to the lender along with the repayment of the principal amount. So, in addition, the lenders may demand a collateral against the loans. So, collateral is an asset that the borrower owns and uses this as a guarantee to a lender until the loan is repaid. So, for example, like I told you, let's say I have deposited 5 lakh rupees in the bank and you have come to the bank to ask for loan of a car. Now the bank is not just going to end up say okay, 10% interest rate, come take money and go. No, he's going to find out if you have the ability, if you are capable enough to return the loan back. So they're going to ask you for your papers, for your salary sheets. They're going to ask you what is your income like, what have you lived, where do you live, do you own your house, etc., etc. And then they'll ask you for a collateral. They will also need some guarantee, some security that you're going to pay the loan back. So they'll ask you for a collateral. So collateral is an asset that the borrower owns and uses this as a guarantee to the lender until the loan is repaid. So if the borrower fails to pay the loan, the lender has the right to sell the asset or collateral to obtain the payment. So suppose, let's say you say, yes, I own my house. So he'll say, okay, give me your house papers and take the money. And suppose tomorrow you fail to pay that 15 lakh rupees, then the bank will get the ownership of the flat and the bank can sell your flat to get the 15 lakh rupees. So properties such as land titles, deposit with banks, livestock, these are some common examples of collateral. Okay, so every time the borrower will fail to pay the loan, the lender will sell the asset or the collateral to obtain the loan payment back. Okay, now again in your textbooks on page number, I think 45. Yes, there is a case study given to you in which it says that Megha, she has taken a loan of rupees 5 lakh from the bank to purchase a house. The annual interest rate on the loan is 12% and the loan is to be repaid in 10 years in monthly installments. Now Megha has to submit to the bank documents showing her employment records and salary before the bank agreed to give her any loan. The bank retained a collateral, the papers of the new house, which will be returned to Megha only when she repays the entire loan with interest. So from this story, you have to write in your textbooks the loan amount, duration of the loan, the documents required, what is the interest rate, what is the mode of payment, and what is the collateral. Okay, so the interest rate, the collateral, the documentation required, the mode of payment, all these together forms what is called as terms of credit. I repeat, interest rate, collateral, documents required, mode of repayment, all these together comprise to form terms of credit. The terms of credit vary substantially, like a lot, from one credit arrangement to another. They may also vary depending on the nature of the lender and the nature of the borrower. So, in later on in the next videos, we are going to learn about the types of credit, the types of credit that we have. Now, again, in your textbooks on page 45, there is a small question answer. You will mark these and write these in your textbooks only, no notebook work. Why do lenders ask for collateral while lending? Given that a large number of people in our country are poor, does it in any way affect their capacity to borrow? And fill in the blanks. While taking a loan, borrowers look for easy terms of service. This means dash interest rate, dash conditions for repayment, and dash collateral and documentation required. Okay, so with this, this is the last part for today's class. Stay home, stay safe, take care, keep learning, start studying. Best of luck. Thank you.